shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
We're starting early this morning with some patchy rain, especially in our northern counties. I'll walk you through Futurecast.
Closing the funding gap. The update on the budget shortfall from Durham school leaders today.
And buyout deadline. What mass resignations of federal workers today could mean for you. Good morning, all you early risers here at 4:30. We love that you're joining us. Saw Jeff and we're like, oh, look it's Christmas today. Christmas in February. Yeah. I got the green going on.
I know.
Yeah,
it's complimentary, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
It's nice.
It's Christmas.
We're hanging on to winter.
Wait till you see Elizabeth. She's also wearing red today, too. Yeah, it's a Merry Christmas Day.
Wow. We did not plan that. No. We have some red and green on the radar, too, as a matter of fact, or at least orange and green. Northern counties this morning are seeing a few showers. We did have just a quick sprinkle move across Wake County, and that stretches down toward Goldsboro and Fayetteville. You may see a sprinkle no matter where you are, but we're not going to see very much rain. The bulk of it's going to be north of I-85 or over toward Roanoke Rapids, and it's going to swing through pretty quickly. So it's just this band, but if you're about to head up I-85, you're definitely going to run into some rain up I-95 too on the northern end. Our chances for rain drop off really quickly. It goes from 40% chance in the next hour all the way down to just 20 to cover a few sprinkles. This afternoon, we're looking at some sunshine, and that means some warmer temperatures again. We take a live look at downtown Raleigh, and you can see that the street is wet here at Fayetteville Street, 40 degrees as our temperature, so it is on the cool side. With some sunshine this afternoon, that we're going to bounce from 40s yesterday back to 70 today. I'll show you which direction we bounce tomorrow coming up.
Sounds like a plan, Elizabeth. Thank you. Today, federal employees will have to decide whether to take a buyout offered by the Trump administration. Those affected have until midnight to make their decision. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us live. Kelsey, experts say these buyouts could lead to issues with public safety.
Yesterday, federal workers will have the option to sign the dotted line until midnight tonight. More than 50,000 of those federal workers are in North Carolina, according to federal data, and dozens of them work here in this federal building in downtown Raleigh. Now, this comes after President Trump ordered federal employees to stop remote work and return to the office. His message, return to work in person or resign. If workers agree to resign by midnight, they can get paid through September. Most full-time federal employees are eligible, but there are a few exceptions, like the military, U.S. Postal Service employees, and positions related to immigration enforcement or national security. Now, the White House expects about 5 to 10% of people will quit, and they estimate that could lead to more than $100 billion in savings. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
I'm Nick Perlin in the WRAL breaking news tracker on NC 210 near Johnston County, where crews are still working to repair internet here on NC 210 after a crash that happened last night. Let's step out of the way and show you still some crews here with Spectrum trying to restore internet here. We know that there was a crash that happened at around 9 last night. A car ran into a pole, and that actually knocked out power in this area. We do know that they were able to restore power in this area at around 2:30, but still workers are here trying to fix up that pole and restore internet for the people who live in this area. We'll stay up to date as to when this road fully opens. You can still see they're blocking one lane of traffic here. So once it is fully open, we'll be sure to update you, and we'll continue to monitor this as it continues to progress here. Live in Johnston County, Nick Perlin, WRAL News.
New this morning, the Trump administration is restricting Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from accessing information in the Treasury Department's payment system. Attorneys for the Justice Department agreed to temporarily stop Doge staffers from the system. The agreement comes after union members and retirees sued the Treasury Department. They say giving Doge access to the federal government's payment and collection system violated federal privacy laws. The Treasury employees will continue to have read-only access to those records. Tonight, staff at Durham Public Schools will take the next steps toward addressing their budget shortfall. Durham Public Schools announced last month its budget is $7 million short. Since then, staff has been able to find funding to close that gap by about 76%. A large portion of that comes from leftover Mackenzie Scott funds. Durham Public Schools got an $18 million grant from the philanthropist in 2022. The school board will get an update on the budget during a work session that starts at 5:30 tonight.
Overall crime on North Carolina public school campuses declined for the first time since the pandemic. Data shows schools saw a big drop in students having weapons on campus, though other categories saw increases. Bomb threats are up 81% compared to 3 years ago. Drug possession increased by 33%, and assault on school employees jumped 20%.
And it reflects in a way of a lack of respect for the profession that needs to be cured. And one way we can certainly try to work on that is to restore respect for the profession, which would include you would not think about touching a teacher.
State school board members point to the need for more emotional and mental health support. The North Carolina Center for Safer Schools will use the data to identify areas for improvement.
A student at a Franklin County school will face discipline and possible charges after being caught with a loaded gun. Principal of Bunn High School says that student was searched after being pulled into the office for a disciplinary matter, and that's when they found the firearm. The principal says there's no evidence the student intended to harm anyone at the school.
Democratic veterans are speaking out against a lawsuit in the still unresolved state Supreme Court race. They are calling on Republican candidate Jefferson Griffin to drop his legal challenge. Democrat Allison Riggs is leading Griffin by more than 700 votes. But Griffin is asking the courts to throw out tens of thousands of ballots, including 5,500 overseas and military votes. Griffin says those voters should have been required to show a photo ID. Democrats say state law does not require that.
When you challenge military ballots, you are not just challenging pieces of paper, you are challenging the very people who put everything on the line for this country.
The state Republican Party is supporting Griffin's challenge. Photo ID and voter verification is in our state constitution and state law, says GOP spokesman Matt Mercer. And that case will be heard in a Wake County courtroom tomorrow morning.
A man in Moore County is charged with multiple offenses involving a child. 27-year-old Charles Owens is charged with abducting a child, taking indecent liberties with a child, soliciting a child on the computer, and exploiting a minor. Aberdeen police discovered this when they got a report of a missing child. During the investigation, officers say they found inappropriate communication between Owens and that juvenile. Owens is in the Moore County Jail with no bond.
More help is on the way for small businesses in Western North Carolina affected by Helene. Governor Josh Stein announced the Duke Endowment has committed $5 million toward the Small Business Initiative Grant Program. Since the program was announced on January 31st, nearly 900 businesses have applied for help.
Exploding iPhone. A man says his phone erupted while it was inside his pocket.
I smelled something burning, and I put my hand in my pocket and knew the phone was kind of hot to the touch.
And what experts say could have caused that new phone to explode.
And a dramatic rescue. We'll show you the moment a first responder rescued an unresponsive man on a boat that was spinning out of control.
And we give you this live look in Lewisburg this morning. It is a chilly morning. There is a warm front on the way, though, once we get past some of these raindrops out there, spotty showers. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is tracking all this for us.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
It is 4:42. We take a live look at dual Doppler 5000 radar. A couple of light showers in our southern counties, but north of Raleigh, we're seeing this band of rain that's moving through. We don't have any thunder or lightning with it. And once it goes by, we're pretty much done. We could still see maybe another sprinkle, maybe up until around 10 or 11 o'clock. It's 40% chance up until around 5 or so. And then most of that just moves on by. We're in for some sunshine this afternoon and a switch in our wind direction, which means a big warm up. And I'll explain more about that coming up. But it's chilly this morning. 37 in Wilson, 40 in Durham, 42 in Fayetteville. Durham, of course, showing some wet streets, and you may run into some of that as you're heading out the door. Temperatures could climb to nearly 70 degrees this afternoon. I'll show you the timeline.
Elizabeth, thanks. Today, salvage and dive teams are expected to complete removal of all major components of the American Airlines regional jet involved in that mid-air collision in D.C. They will then shift to removing the remainder of the U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter from the water. Investigators say the medical examiner is working to return the bodies of the 67 victims to their families.
And Renee, people who live near D.C. are honoring the victims of that mid-air collision. Hundreds gathered to mark 1 week since the crash. A candlelight vigil happened last night on the Virginia side of the Potomac. Dozens of people, including first responders and elected officials, gathered to remember the lives that were lost.
A Fuquay-Varina man is trying to get answers from Apple after he says his iPhone 15 exploded in his pocket. Look at this. Jonathan Allen says he had only had the phone for about 60 days when it exploded while he was on a walk with his family last month. We showed the damaged phone to one of our WRAL engineers, as well as to Grant Gibson with My Computer Career. He says this is the first time he's seen a phone explode in this particular way.
That could be a manufacturing default that caused that as well, because that doesn't look like it's the battery, but it definitely looks like there was some heat generated and some swelling that occurred.
Allen was not hurt. Apple has not responded to our request for comment about this or any other reported phone explosions.
Two men who may be linked to the burglary of Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow's home appeared in a New York court. The men are charged with conspiracy to receive stolen property. Prosecutors say they ran a pawn shop in Manhattan where a large number of stolen items were found. The men are due back in court tomorrow.
Mayors of some of the country's largest sanctuary cities will testify before Congress. A hearing on sanctuary policy is scheduled for March 5th. Democratic mayors from New York City, Chicago, Boston, and Denver all agreed to be there. Sanctuary cities have laws in place to limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement actions. A House committee plans to question the mayors on what it says are policies putting public safety at risk.
Federal effort to crack down on immigration is affecting more than just people without documentation. We are now learning what it could mean for green card holders who may have criminal records. A Durham woman tells us her husband was arrested by immigration enforcement agents last week, and he could now be deported. Heather Spink says her husband has had his green card since 2003. He faced felony drug charges in 2022, including death by distribution. He went on probation as part of a plea deal. She says he was arrested by ICE agents last week when he met with his probation officer.
As soon as he walked in, the probation officer took him to a conference room, and there were 4 ICE police in there, and they instantly said, "Put your hands behind your back."
Court records show Spink's husband faced more felony charges last year, including possession of a firearm by a felon. It's unclear which charges led to his arrest.
A new bill would require North Carolina school boards to ban cell phones during class. Senate Bill 55 would also require a consequence for students who don't follow the rules. Currently, most schools ban cell phones during class, but the rules and enforcement vary. Many teachers say they don't enforce them because it's too time-consuming. Advocates for cell phone restrictions say they will help children focus and form better relationships. If the bill passes, it would take effect next year.
Your time is 4:46 here in the WRAL Live Center. Still watching this live protest session that Senate Democrats have been hosting since yesterday afternoon. Essentially, they're protesting the nomination of President Trump's pick for the Office of Management and Budget Director, Russell Vought. Democrats essentially holding this because he passed through the Senate committee hearing with a unanimous vote. But the round of speeches is not expected to affect the final vote on Vought. He's likely to be confirmed along party lines once 30 hours of debate ends at 7 o'clock tonight. And just for reference, Vought is actually one of the co-authors of Project 2025. That's essentially a wish list for Republicans that President Trump previously distanced himself from, but parts of it have come to fruition.
Chris, thanks. A North Carolina doctor is warning we're not in the clear just yet when it comes to flu season. The state reported 51 more people have died from the flu, bringing the total this season to now 117. The flu makes up nearly 12% of all emergency room visits to date, with nearly 1,500 patients being treated for the flu statewide. None of the deaths this year have been children. The majority of deaths were people over the age of 65.
A man was rescued from an out-of-control boat after a medical emergency on a lake in Florida. Check this out. The recovery was all caught on camera. You can see that small boat spinning in circles. A sheriff's unit pulled up next to it, nudged it closer to shore, and then a man jumps on board. The rescuer turned the boat's engine off and helped the boater, who is expected to fully recover.
What a scene. A community is raising money for a Johnston County couple who lost their home and 2 dogs in this fire. Family members say the home belonged to Paige and Jay Warren. Jay Warren is a former mayor of Micro in Johnston County. The couple wasn't hurt in the fire. The cause is under investigation. 4:48 is the time right now. There are some raindrops out there in some parts of our viewing area. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center.
Some scattered showers, especially north. All those northern counties that touch Virginia are seeing some scattered rain right now. This one band will move on through, and then once it's over, that should be the end of it for at least a while. We do have a few sprinkles that are showing up, say around Goldsboro, around Wilson, down toward Fayetteville, into the Sandhills. That also will slide eastward in the next hour to 2 hours, and then we'll be done with it. But some rain in Roxborough, up the I-85 corridor, Oxford, Henderson, Roanoke Rapids just saw a band of showers roll through as well. But again, that's going to be the end of it, and it's not going to have a big effect on our morning commute. Well, widen out, and there's the warm front. Yesterday, that warm front slipped south of us. Now it is lifting northward, and all systems look like they are go to see some sunshine this afternoon and warmth rushing right back in. So this front yesterday slipped to our south. Now it is on the move, heading to the north. Here's a look at futurecast. Of course, as that front moves northward, there's a little bit of patchy rain. We'll stop it there at 6 a.m. Could be a few sprinkles up near the Virginia line, maybe even a sprinkle from Southern Pines down toward Fayetteville. But around the triangle, we should be pretty dry for the morning commute. There's 8 a.m. with rain to our north. Once we get into the afternoon, we begin to see the skies clearing. And at that point, again, there could be a teeny shower that rolls through. You can see that around 6 or 7 o'clock this evening. But for the most part, the rain will be over. It is a little wet here on Fayetteville Street as we take a look from our Jimmy V camera, where it is 40 degrees right now. So it's on the chilly side. 36 in Roxborough, South Hill, 38 Rocky Mount and Goldsboro. And we take a look at our big temperature shift. Right now, our wind is coming out of the north, and you can see those blue shaded arrows. We'll have a period of time this morning where the winds are variable as we start to make that switch. But eventually, watch how it all switches, and we start to see that air coming out of the south. And when we do, we're going to see a big warm up. Take a look at how that could look today. 70 today, 70 tomorrow. It dips southward again on Saturday. Cloudy skies and a little chilly, but we could be seeing temperatures near record highs on Sunday. I'll show you what the record is and how to plan for your Super Bowl Sunday.
Talk about a triple-double. A high school basketball team is stacked with sets of twins.
This is really special. We have 3 sets. We have 40 kids, but we have 3 sets of twins here.
Oh, I love it. Coming up, we'll hear from some of the siblings on what it's like to play alongside family.
Also, NFL Down Under, the plan to bring a regular season football game to Australia.
A high school in Madison, Wisconsin has 40 girls who play basketball. A few of them have a lot in common. There's not 1, not 2, but 3 sets of twins who play on this team. The team's motto is building a legacy, though this may not exactly be the kind of legacy they originally meant.
It's just like having a best friend with you all the time. So
You guys never fight, apparently. Right?
We're getting better.
The head coach says it's a special thing to have so many sisters playing on the court. Twinning is winning.
I'm glad they have numbers to tell them apart, right? Grammys are over. Some big names in music, though, are still making news. Here's David Daniel with today's Hollywood Minute.
Brandy really pushed me.
We made an album that I think is spectacular for all the ages.
Elton John and Brandy Carlisle have 16 Grammys between them. Now they've collaborated on an album, Who Believes in Angels? The album includes their Oscar-nominated song, Never Too Late, from the documentary of the same name. Who Believes in Angels, written by Elton, Carlisle, Bernie Taupin, and Grammy-winning producer Andrew Watt, comes out April 4th. If you missed the North American leg of Imagine Dragons' Loom World Tour, you can experience it in a movie theater. Imagine Dragons, live from the Hollywood Bowl with the LA Film Orchestra, is set to play cinemas worldwide on Wednesday, March 26th and Saturday, March 29th. Tickets go on sale February 12th at ImagineDragonsMovie.com. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
The NFL is heading to the land down under. The organization announced it is going to Australia next year for a game. The NFL is saying the Los Angeles Rams will be the designated home team for this game. It'll be the first regular season game ever to be played in that country. The game will be played at the iconic Melbourne Cricket Ground. The Rams' opponents, as well as the date, have not yet been announced. This won't be the first time the NFL has touched down in that country, though. The Denver Broncos kicked off against the San Diego Chargers in Sydney for a preseason game. Preseason, that was 1999.
The WNBA could be coming back to the Queen City. The league created some buzz around the idea after it filed a trade application for the Charlotte Sting. That was the name of the team in Charlotte from 1997 to 07. It was one of the league's original 8 teams. The league also submitted applications for other trademarks like the Cleveland Rockers and Houston Comets. It recently awarded an expansion to the Golden State Warriors ownership group, which will start playing as the Golden State Valkyries in May. Toronto and Portland were also recently awarded teams. They begin next year. A midnight deadline. How federal workers taking buyouts could affect public safety.
Collision on the runway. The plane that clipped the tail of another at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport.